Hello students, today in this video we are going to learn Chapter 3, The Shepherd's Treasure. It is an Iranian folktale. This story is from A Baked with the Sun, Supplementary Reader in English for Class 6. So Chapter 3, The Shepherd's Treasure. This story is a very short story as well as it's very interesting and it has a good moral. This story is about a shepherd, a very poor shepherd. Now let us see the story. A poor shepherd once lived in Iran. Though uneducated, he was very wise and helpful. The king decided to meet him in the skies. So here it says, there was a poor shepherd. He lived in Iran. This shepherd was an uneducated man, but he was very wise, he was very intelligent and was very helpful. So one day the king decided to meet him in disguise. In disguise means he pretended to be some other person, or he approached to the shepherd with a false appearance, not as a king, but with other false appearance. Okay, so now let us see the chapter. I'll read, and explain. In a village in Iran, there once lived a shepherd. He was very poor. He did not have even a small cottage of his own. He had never been to school or learned to read and write, for there were very few schools in those days. So, once in a village in Iran, there lived a shepherd. He was very poor. He did not have even a small cottage of his own, and he was an uneducated man, which means he had never gone to school or learned to read and write. Because there were only few schools in those days, and since he was very poor, he could not get the education. Though poor and uneducated, this shepherd was very wise. He understood people's sorrows and troubles and helped them face their problems with courage and common sense. So this shepherd, he was a very poor man as well as he was uneducated, but he was very intelligent, very wise. He could able to understand people's sorrows, about their troubles, about their problems, and he always helped them. He always helped them to face their problems with courage and also with a good common sense. Many people came to him for advice. Soon he became famous for his wisdom and friendly nature. So it so happened that because of his wisdom, many people came to know about him, and many people, they came to this shepherd for an advice. And gradually he became very famous for his wisdom as well as friendly nature. He was very friendly, and anytime he was ready to help the other people, though he was very poor. The king of the country heard about him and thought of meeting him. So this news about the poor shepherd spread all over the kingdom, and the king also heard about this poor shepherd, and he thought of meeting this poor shepherd. Disguised as a shepherd and riding on a mule, one day the king came to the cave where the wise shepherd lived. Here, mule means an offspring of female horse and a male donkey. Okay, so the king thought of meeting this poor shepherd, and one day the king disguised himself as a shepherd, not as a king. You can see the picture there. Okay, the king did not go to meet this shepherd as a king, but he disguised himself. He pretended to be a shepherd and he rode on a mule, and he went to meet this poor shepherd. And at last he came to the cave where the wise shepherd lived, which means here we can understand the poor shepherd lived in a cave. As soon as the shepherd saw the traveler coming towards the cave, he rose to welcome him. He took the tired traveler inside the cave and gave him water to drink and a share of his own meal. So as soon as the shepherd saw the traveler, we all know the traveler is none other than the king. So when he saw the traveler coming towards his cave, he rose up immediately and he welcomed him. Very warmly, he welcomed the traveler. So the traveler looked very tired, and so we all know the poor shepherd is a very kind man. He is very helpful, and so he took the tired traveler inside the cave. He gave him water to drink, and also he shared his little meal that he had for himself. He shared with a king, that is the traveler. The king rested for the night in the cave and was greatly impressed by the shepherd's hospitality and wise conversation. So the king called in the poor shepherd's house, okay, the cave. So he rested for the night in the cave, and the king, that is a traveler, was greatly impressed. He was so much impressed by the shepherd's hospitality, the way he took care of him, the way he shared his meal, the way he talked so wisely to him. He was so much impressed, okay, by the shepherd's hospitality and the wise conversation. Now let us see the next. Though still tired, the king decided to depart the next morning. He said, "Many thanks for your kindness to a poor traveler. I have a long way to go. Permit me to leave." So the king, he was still tired, but he decided to go away, to depart, okay, the next morning. So before he left, he gave thanks to the shepherd for his kindness, okay, for being so good towards a poor traveler that is the king, okay, the king. But the shepherd doesn't know or didn't know that he was a king. He thought that he was just a poor traveler, okay. So he gave thanks, and he said that he had a long way to go, so he requested him to allow him, okay, to leave. Looking straight into the eyes of his guest, the shepherd replied, "Thank you, your majesty, for paying me the compliment of a visit." The king was astonished as well as pleased. "He is indeed very wise," he thought to himself. "I need people like him to work for me." And the king appointed this humble shepherd the governor of a small district. So looking straight into the eyes of his case means the king, okay? And the shepherd replied, "Thank you, your majesty." So he had recognized him, okay? So he addressed him as "your majesty" for paying me the compliment of a visit. So he said thank you for paying him the compliment of a visit. So the king was very much astonished as well as he was very much pleased. So he came to know that yes, this very poor shepherd is indeed very wise, quite intelligent. And so the king said that he needed people like this poor shepherd who is so wise. And at last, the king appointed this humble shepherd the governor of a small district. So he became a governor of a small district. He was appointed as a governor of a small district by the king, because the king was very impressed by his hospitality as well as by his wisdom. Although he rose to power and dignity, the shepherd remained as humble as ever. People loved and honored him for his wisdom, sympathy, and goodness. So this poor shepherd, he rose to power and dignity. Now he is a governor. So okay, he became a governor and he had lots of money, okay, power, that is money, and dignity. Everyone, okay, recognized him. Everyone knew him, okay, as a governor. But still then the shepherd did not change himself. He remained as humble as ever, down to earth, okay. He was very humble, very kind, very much concern for the others, okay. He helped others as before, okay. He was humble as ever, and people loved him more because of this quality, okay. All these qualities that the poor shepherd had. So people loved and honored him for his wisdom, for his sympathy, and also for his goodness. He was kind and he was just to one and all, okay. He was very kind to everyone. His fame as a fair and wise governor soon spread throughout the country. Then later on, his fame as a fair Now throughout the country, it was spread. The news was spread about this poor shepherd, about his fame, about his name, popularity, as a fair and wise governor, very intelligent, and who doesn't do unjust, do others, very fair, what is right, he does only that. So his fame as a fair and wise governor soon spread throughout the country. Now the governors of other provinces grew terribly jealous of him and began to talk to the king against him. So the other governors also, they heard about this poor shepherd, and they become jealous. They become jealous of this poor shepherd, and they began to talk to the king against him. Now let us see. They said, he is very dishonest and keeps for himself part of the money that he collects as tax from the people. Why did he always carry with him, they added, an iron chest? Perhaps he carried in it the treasure that he had secretly collected. So the other governors, when they came to know about the popularity, or when they heard more about this poor shepherd, they became very jealous, and they went and reported about him to the king. They said that this poor shepherd is very dishonest and also keeps money for himself, part of the money, half of the money that he collects as a tax, he keep it for himself. That is what they reported to the king. And they also talk about the iron chest, the iron chest that he always carries. And they told to the king that this chest means box, a box which is made of iron, so in that iron chest, he always carries that, wherever he goes. So maybe, perhaps means maybe he carried it in the treasure. Maybe this is the maybe in that box there is a treasure. Treasure means a collection of valuable things, or wealth, or a stock of money, or jewels, or precious stones, or anything which is valuable. So they told to the king that this poor shepherd, who is appointed as a governor, is always carrying an iron chest, an iron chest with him. So in that iron chest, he might be carrying the money, the part of the money that he had collected as tax from the people. So this is what the other governors went and told to the king. After all, they said mockingly, he was an ordinary shepherd and could behave no better. So this is what the other governors told to the king. So after all, they all said mockingly. Mockingly means making fun, making fun of that poor shepherd. They told to the king that now he is a governor, but he is a poor shepherd. He has come from that background. And so this ordinary shepherd, they never expect him to behave well. So he might be cheating the king. This is what the governors told to the king. At first, the king did not pay attention to these reports, but how long could he ignore these governors and their endless stories about the shepherd? One thing was certain, the king discovered. The new governor did carry an iron chest with him all the time. So at first, the king did not pay any attention to these reports, the reports that were given by the other governors. But again and again, they keep on reporting to the king. So the king could not ignore this governor's reports. And at last, now he has to meet that newly appointed governor, that is the poor shepherd. So he also found out, the king also discovered or found out that the new governor always carry an iron chest with him all the time. So the king also thought maybe, like the other governors had told him, maybe this new governor might be carrying the part of the money, half of the money in that iron box or iron chest. So one day, the new governor was summoned to the palace. He came riding on his camel, and to everyone's delight, the famous iron chest was there, fastened securely behind him on the camel's back. So one day, the new governor was called to the palace. Someone was called, okay, to the palace. So how the new governor came? The new governor is the poor shepherd, okay. So he came riding on his camel. And to everyone's delight, now the other governors were also there, okay, they were waiting. We all know they were very jealous of him, okay, and this is why, okay, this is the reason why they have reported all these nonsense things to the king. And when he came from that camel, okay, riding on his camel, all these governors and the king, everyone, they saw the famous iron chase fastened, okay, tied very nicely, okay, securely behind him on the camel's back. Now the king was angry. He thundered. Now by seeing that one, okay, because every time, okay, the governors, they came and told to the king about ill of this poor shepherd, right? So the king also started believing, okay, believing them. And so on that day also, when he saw the iron box behind him, the king got angry and he thundered. Thundered means he shouted, "Why do you always carry the iron chase with you? What does it contain?" So this is the question. The king asked him why was he carrying the iron chase with him always, and what does it contain in that iron chase, okay, in that iron box. The governor smiled. He asked his servant to bring in the chase. How eagerly the people standing around waited for the shepherd to be found out. But how great was their astonishment, and even of the king himself, when the chest was opened. No gold or silver or jewels, but an old blanket was all that came out. So when the question was asked to the governor, that is the poor shepherd, he smiled. And so the king asked his servant to bring in the chest, the box, okay? And the king told them to open the iron chest. Then everyone, all the governors, okay, they were waiting, okay, waiting for that time. So the people, okay, they were standing around and they were waiting for the shepherd to be found out, okay, to be, or what is there in that chest or in that box. But what happened when the box was opened? It was a great astonishment for everyone. Everyone was shocked. Everyone was surprised, okay, when the iron box or the iron box was opened. And even the king himself was astonished, because in that iron chest there was no gold or silver or jewels, but an old blanket. There was an old blanket inside the box. You can see the picture here. Okay, that is the blanket. So all the governors, they thought that yes, there is money or some valuable things, so that they can give him punishment. The king might give him punishment. But when the box was opened, they found an old blanket. Holding it up proudly, the shepherd said, "This, my dear master, is my only treasure. I always carry it with me." So now the poor shepherd, the new governor, he told to the king, okay, he told to the king, holding the blanket very proudly, that that blanket was only treasure, the valuable thing that he has in his life. And this is the reason why he always carried the blanket with him. So this was the reply given by the poor shepherd to the king. "But why do you carry such an ordinary blanket with you? Surely you are the governor of a district?" the king asked. So the king was surprised. And he asked a question. "You are a governor. You are very rich now. You are a governor of a district. So why are you carrying such an ordinary blanket, a very old blanket with you?" Okay, so the question the king asked him like that, to which the shepherd replied with quite dignity. Then the shepherd, with so much of dignity, okay, he felt proud of himself, and with much honor, okay, he replied to the king, "This blanket is my oldest friend. It will still protect me if at any time your majesty should wish to take away my new clocks." Now you see this is the reply given by the poor shepherd. He said that the blanket is his oldest friend, and It had protected him from the beginning, and it is still protecting him. And also he says that even in the near future also, the blanket will still protect him, even if anytime the king takes away his governorship or takes away his new clothes. Now, when he became a governor, okay, he was given new clothes, he had money, and so he was wearing new clothes, okay. But king if the king sent him away and takes away his governorship, then even at that time, okay, when his new clothes, new dress are being taken away, the old blanket will be still there for him, and it will still protect him. So this is what he replied to the king. How pleased the king was, and how embarrassed the jealous governors became to hear the wise man's reply. Now they knew that the shepherd was indeed the humblest and the wisest man in the land. The king made him the governor of a much bigger district that very day. So the king was very much pleased by the answer, by the reply given by the poor shepherd. And the other jealous governors, the governors who were this too jealous of this poor shepherd, they were embarrassed. They felt ashamed because they were the one, okay, the one who came and reported many things, okay. They talked many ill about the poor shepherd. But now the result is on the opposite. They told him that maybe he is having all this money, okay, valuable things. And they also told him that he is not a good governor. He is taking the half of the amount, okay, that he collected as a tax from the people. So this is what they had informed to the king. But now it was okay, the reality has come out. He was not like that. And so the governors, okay, who reported the king about the poor shepherd, they all were embarrassed. They were ashamed of what they had done, and they were ashamed when they heard the wise man's reply. And now they knew, okay, everyone, they knew, okay, even the governors, they knew that the shepherd was indeed the humblest. Humblest means, okay, who is not proud, okay, very simple, very humble, down to earth, okay, very humble. And he was the wisest man, the most intelligent man in that land. So the king was once again very much impressed, okay, and the king made him the governor of a much bigger. Earlier, he was a governor of a small district, right? But the king was so happy that he trusts him, okay, and he can rely on him, and so he made him the governor of much bigger district that very day. Okay, so this is the end of the story. It is an Iranian folk tale. So the story is very simple. It's very interesting. Okay, so go through your textbook and also listen to the explanation. Thank you.